Whoa! What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. Just want to let you guys know I did take your recommendation. A lot of you guys, I asked you, I think it was in my prior video, I asked you guys if you'd be interested if I was going to do a power rankings video, and it was overwhelming. A lot of you guys said that you would be really interested in that type of content. So that's something I'm going to actually start next week because it's getting late in the week for me. I'm going to have this video up today. So starting every Tuesday going forward, I'm going to have an updated power ranking each and every week. And a lot of you guys said that you would prefer it to be more than 10 teams. So it'll be a longer type of video. You guys could scan through the video at your leisure, however you may want. But I'm going to end up ranking all 32 teams week to week. Should be a really fun video to add to the channel. So appreciate the feedback. Just trying to add, certain things to the channel. And I think that'd be a lot of fun. Also, later today, I'm going to be live with Mike Too Nice. Just want to let you guys know. I know you don't always get the notifications. I'm going to be live at 6 p.m. with Mike Too Nice. He's going to be coming on the channel. We do our weekly show together. This time it's on my channel. We're going to go to about 7:35, 7:40. I have a movie to catch at about 8:10. So I got to be out of here by about 7:50, 7:55. So just want to let you guys know that. It'll be about an hour and a half to an hour and 40 minutes. Of course, we'll be talking about last week. We'll be talking about the games going forward for the New York Giants. But in this video, I really wanted to take, 20, 25 minutes out of my day to talk about Joe Schoen's first rookie class for the New York Giants. And it's a very important rookie class. We all knew going into the year that this was going to be an imperative draft for Joe Schoen in his first year, being that we had 2 picks inside the top 7, being that we had 11 picks overall, and being that we didn't have a ton of money to spend in free agency. So we knew as Giants fans, if we were going to make some improvements with the team this year, the majority of them was going to come from within the draft. The Giants have definitely made some, smart moves in free agency with some of the guys they've brought in both before the season and in season. Guys like Jalen Smith, you've seen him make a pretty big impact with this football team. But a lot of the damage that they've made has been through the draft. Now, not all these players have had an impact quite yet because you don't expect that. 5th, 6th, 7th round picks, more often than not, aren't going to make a dramatic impact until maybe 2-3 years into the league. And a lot of times, those guys won't make much of an impact at all. A lot of times, they're drafted for special teams purposes, for depth purposes, so on and so forth. You're not going to hit a home run with every single pick that you make. But I think we've seen this year as Giants fans, when analyzing a draft, you got to give the draft some time to breathe. You got to give it 3-4 years. You look at guys like Dexter Lawrence. He's taken a massive jump this year. You look at a guy like Julian Love. He's taken a massive jump this year. So it is way too early to come to a final conclusion one way or the other on any of these prospects. We're only 6 weeks in, but this is more like a progress report. This is more to talk about some of the growth and, some of the good things that I've seen from this draft class and just grading it overall thus far. Kind of on a curve because you don't expect too much through 6 weeks through the season for the majority of these rookies, but talk about some of the potential that I could see with a lot of these players in this year's draft class. So let's just get right into it. I'm just going to pull up all the draft picks for the New York Giants, and we're going to start with Kayvon Thibodeaux. Kayvon Thibodeaux, of course, missed the first 2 weeks this year, drafted out of Oregon, and a lot of people said going into the draft that he may fall down draft boards because he's had some off the field issues, character concerns. I always thought that was a bunch of nonsense, to be completely honest with you. I never thought that I never saw that. I never heard that up until about the draft. And I thought it was a lot of smoke to try to knock him down draft boards. And in the end, I think that is completely exactly what it is. Yes, does he have a personality? 100%. I don't care. He seems to be the type of guy that wants to go out there and help his team win football games. And as long as he's that, I welcome him with open arms. And when you watch Kayvon Thibodeaux's highlights, when you watch his game, his film breakdowns for various people on the internet, the one thing that really stood out to me was his first step and his strength. I think he's only going to get stronger. I think he's going to put on more muscle. But to me, he could be a complete player, not just strictly an edge rusher in terms of getting after the quarterback. And I saw that this past week. He actually dropped back in coverage and nearly had an interception on one play. Not to say he's going to be great in coverage, but I do think he's a guy that could develop further throughout his career in being more of a well-rounded edge rusher. But in terms of getting after the quarterback, even leading up into this past week, you started to see signs from Kayvon Thibodeaux. The 2 prior weeks, I think he had 8 combined pressures, which led all rookie edge rushers over that 2-week stretch. His first week, he certainly looked lost, but this past week, of course, came up with the game-winning play with the strip sack, which was huge, both for his confidence and, of course, the New York Giants football team. So you love to see that Kayvon Thibodeaux was able to close out the game. But my mark for Kayvon, especially on a rookie scale, so far this year, I'd give him maybe like a B+. Like, I certainly think he is starting to show glimpses of being the player that we were expecting him to be. Does he have Micah Parsons stats? No, but I didn't expect that in his rookie year. I think he's going to be a difference maker for this New York Giants football team for a long time to come, and the talent is certainly there. And I think Giants fans are getting more and more excited about the prospects of a guy like Kayvon Thibodeaux going forward with this football team. I think he's going to be a difference maker for a long, long time for the New York Giants. And when I look at our pass rush going forward, when I look at Dexter Lawrence, who I do think is going to be here for a long time, I do think the Giants are going to eventually extend him. When I look at Azeez Ojulari, if he could get back out on the football field, we all saw the potential last year. And even this year, while he was playing, he looked like really good. He was getting a lot of pressure off the edge. And, of course, I look at Leonard Williams combined with Kayvon Thibodeaux, who I think probably has the highest upside of all of those guys. This pass rush could be tops in the league. Like, it has that potential. When you look at the interior, when you look at those two individuals coming off the edge, the Giants are building something on this front seven, and a big part of that is going to be Kayvon Thibodeaux and his continued growth in the NFL. So far, so great with Kayvon Thibodeaux. Looks like a really good pick by the New York Giants. The next guy we're going to talk about is the big fella, Evan Neal out of Alabama, who was, of course, drafted 7th overall by the Giants. And I think the Giants probably would have taken him first of those two players had there been a couple tackles already off the board. Fortunately enough for Joe Shane, when Evan Neal when we were up at number 5, nobody had been selected at the tackle position. Aquanu, Neal, and Charles Cross were all still available, and the Giants had a pick and 2 picks later. I think we all agree our biggest need going into that draft was probably the right tackle, but because none of them went in the first 5 picks, that afforded the Giants the luxury of going with Kayvon first, making sure they got their edge rusher, and then they still got what many felt was probably the best tackle in last year's draft class, at least going in. You could certainly argue for the other two. Aquanu's ceiling maybe a bit higher, and Charles Cross was a guy that people felt may have fit our offensive scheme better. At least some people felt that way. But Evan Neal projects to be a very good tackle in the NFL. Very good. Hopefully elite. Hopefully he reaches what we've seen with Andrew Thomas. And much like Andrew Thomas, early on in Evan Neal's career, the first couple of weeks, specifically in the Dallas Cowboys game, he really struggled. I mean, he got beat off the edge, I think, 3 times. He gave up a sack within the first half against Tank Lawrence, and was probably the main reason why we lost that game to the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not going to panic about it. And what we've seen from Evan Neal now, the 3 weeks since then, he's gotten progressively better. Now, does he have issues? 100%. When I watch all of the film breakdowns that a lot of people do, Bobby and several other people on Twitter, the one thing that he has struggled with early on in his career, he leans a lot. No doubt about it. He gets beat off the edge. He leans too much. But this past week was by far his best game as a pro. He had a 71 PFF grade. I think he only gave up 1 pressure in 32 passing down situations. He only gave up 1 pressure all game. And he's getting better and better and better, which is exactly what you want to see in a rookie right tackle. And he is a significant improvement over Nate Solder. And I do think, I don't know if he'll reach the levels of a guy like Andrew Thomas, who right now is playing like the best left tackle in football, but I think he is going to eventually grow into a very good right tackle. And the Giants certainly have 2 bookends for hopefully the next 10 to 15 years if these guys could stay on the field. The other thing I'll say about Evan Neal, when you hear a lot of the sound clips on the sideline, for a rookie, sounds to be like he could be a really good leader for this team as well. Love his personality and love what he brings to the table. And the upside is off the charts with a guy like Evan Neal, a guy that's able to move the way that he does at his size. There's a reason that he was thought to be the best tackle by many in this year's draft class, with a very strong tackle draft class. I think all 3 of them went inside the top 10 or 12 picks or whatever it was. So really excited about the growth of Evan Neal. I do think out of all these rookies on this chart that we drafted, he's going to have the biggest leap in the second half of the season. And by year's end, I think Giants fans are going to be really excited going into his sophomore year between him and Andrew Thomas. So far, I'd give him probably a C+. Judged on a rookie scale. He definitely struggled early on. He's still struggling at times, but he's getting progressively better, which is exactly what you want to see. And I think as Giants fans, we should learn that it takes time at that position. That's probably one of the 3 hardest positions to transition to into the NFL. We saw it with Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas, his first year with the Giants, specifically in the first half of his rookie year, struggled mightily. We saw that week after week after week after week, and then he grew into, just 2 short years later after his rookie year, the tackle that we now see today. And I think you could expect a similar growth pattern from a guy like Evan Neal. But I would say quarterback, cornerback, CB, and probably offensive tackle are the 3 toughest positions to transition to into the NFL. And thus far, Evan Neal is showing growth. And I think by year's end, he'll be a lot better than he even is now. So definitely really excited about him. I'd probably give that pick, like I said, as of now, a C+, but certainly trending upwards. The next pick, Wan'dale Robinson, number 43 overall in the second round. And this was a pick when the Giants made it on draft day. I won't lie. I was a little bit surprised initially when they first made the pick. I was a little bit surprised. He's small in stature. I felt like when they made the pick, we have a guy that's at least fairly similar in terms of the type of wide receiver, that being Kadarius Toney, who up until this point has not been able to get out on the field, and of course was not drafted by Joe Schoen. But that was my line, my line of thinking when they first made the pick, because I remember a lot of people, when you heard a lot of rumors that turned out to be bogus about the New York Giants potentially looking to trade Kadarius Toney before the draft started, I said to myself, okay, well, even if that's a remote possibility, let me do a little research on receivers that are similar to a guy like Toney, because I do think a receiver like Toney fits this type of scheme very well. What I thought, with Kafka coming over to call the plays, you want guys that you could kind of move around throughout the offense, could play in the slot, could play on the outside. And the one name that consistently popped up was Wan'dale Robinson. So when they drafted him, I was like, wow, so they're going to go with two types of wide receivers like that. But then when I really thought about it, it kind of makes sense. When you look at the Kansas City Chiefs offense, they want guys that could do multiple things. And when asked about Rondell Robinson after the draft, Dable and Shane both said, we have a clear role for this guy. We have a clear plan for him, and we think he's going to fit very well in this offense. And I know a lot of people look at Pickens and several other receivers that went after him and said, that's the guy we should have drafted. But I think what we have to realize as fans is our GM, Joe Schoen, is trying to pick players that he feels fit the type of role that he wants from them, that fits his type of offense, that fits his vision. He may not necessarily be looking for the best athlete or prospect that may not fit exactly what they're looking to do. And I think that was the main reason why they ended up taking Wan'dale Robinson, and probably the main reason why they ended up taking Josh Ezeudu, and probably the main reason why they ended up taking Cordalle Flott, that we're going to get into in a minute. But so far, so good with Wan'dale Robinson. He hasn't been out on the field much because he's been hurt. So that's certainly a concern, right? Much like it's been with Toney early on in his career, but he finally got to get back out on the field this week. Early on, I think he only had 5 yards and one catch. I think it was week 1, and then he missed a ton of time for the Giants due to the injury. Got back out there this week. Didn't see a ton of snaps. I think he only played 15 snaps for the Giants, which was like less than 25%. He wasn't out there a whole lot, but you kind of figured he'd be on a bit of a pitch count early on. But in terms of the way that he was used, he had 3 catches in just 15 offensive snaps for 37 yards. Could have easily had 4 catches for over 50 yards. Of course, he had the drop. There was a little bit of it was definitely a tough catch. It hit him in the shoulder, but in the NFL, if you're a wide receiver, you got to make that catch. So I guess that's the one ding that you could have for Wan'dale Robinson, but he certainly made a dramatic impact. He caught a touchdown, which was a great job by Mike Kafka, scheming him open on the goal line, as he continues to do a great job as the offensive coordinator. But I think you saw that they used him as a traditional wide receiver, which a lot of people question, being that he's small in stature, they're going to use him as like a gadget guy. We didn't really see that. We didn't see him in the Wildcat. We didn't see any like forward pitches, which is kind of the way that I envisioned them using him, at least partially. He was used for the most part as a traditional receiver. And I do think his role will expand as we get healthier, as we get to hopefully get Toney back in the lineup, as we add maybe another number 1 wide receiver next year. I do think his role will expand, and you will see him used more than just a typical slot wide receiver in the role of like a Cole Beasley. I do think you could expand a bit more on that, but I actually think it was encouraging to see the Giants use him in the way in which they did in his first week, and to see the success that he had. You think about the type of game he may have had he played, 80% of the snaps. He might have had 75, 80 yards. Maybe he catches another touchdown. Who knows? But so far, so good for Wan'dale Robinson. Looked like he was getting open. Looked like he was running pretty crisp routes. And certainly looks like he could be a guy that may fill that void that's probably going to be left by Sterling Shepard at the end of the year. So really excited about Wan'dale Robinson. So far, similar to Neal, because he hasn't been out on the field a whole lot, but because I see potential, I'd probably give that pick maybe a C+ thus far. But for me, it's about progress, and it's about seeing the potential, and I certainly see potential in Wan'dale Robinson, specifically in the offense that the New York Giants are looking to run. The next guy we're going to talk about is Joshua Azudu. Azudu has struggled. I'm not going to lie. He's a 3rd-round guard, though, out of North Carolina. He struggled. No doubt about it. And I don't think he's ready to be a starter in the NFL, which is kind of what you expect when you take a lineman that late in the first round, in the 3rd round, I should say. Sometimes you find guys that are able to step in and do a great job. Azudu is still developing. But what I will say, when I've watched film breakdowns of him, I see the potential. He's definitely a guy that is very athletic for a man of his size. He's also capable, because of how big he is for a guard, of playing both the tackle and the guard spot. And maybe long term, that's what he'll be. He'll be like a sixth man in the rotation that you can move around, or maybe he will, in fact, develop into a very good starter on the interior portion of the offensive line. That still remains to be seen. So he's kind of an incomplete for me. We haven't really gotten to see him get starters reps quite yet. I think he only took 5 snaps last week, but that was only because Feliciano went down with the injury. Early on in the season, he was at least coming close to splitting reps. I think it was with Bredesen. But Bredesen, as much as I give him hell, has actually played much better for the Giants the last couple of weeks. So I don't think we're going to see Azudu back out on the football field getting starters reps until such time. Hopefully we don't, but if we have an injury, maybe he gets an opportunity. But I don't think he's going to, the way the offensive line is starting to mature and play better, I don't see a reason for Dable to mess with that. Right now, that offensive line looks like it's getting better week over week over week, specifically in the interior. They've certainly gotten better. It's still a weakness, but they're getting better week over week over week. But Azudu, I still think has a relatively high ceiling. The attributes are there. He's got pretty long arms. He's mobile for a man of his size. He's got to work on his technique and things like that, but still certainly some potential, but he's not a rookie that's going to make an impact in year one. So for me, that's kind of an incomplete, but with potential for growth. Next up, we're going to talk about is Cordalle Flott, which was a pick that a lot of Giants fans, when the Giants initially made it, it was another third-round pick, 81st overall. Some people question it for sure. Out of LSU, the corner, and again, hasn't played a lot. He's been hurt, much like a lot of rookies we're going to talk about throughout the video. But when he has played in the preseason and some of the reps that he got from within the regular season when he was thrown into action, I actually thought he played well. And I know in the Panthers game, he got burnt on one drive specifically, got burnt twice, one for a big gain and the other for a touchdown. But outside of that, I actually thought he played relatively well in that game before he went down with the injury. And much like Azudu, I see why the Giants drafted him. I see the physical attributes. He's very fast, and I do think he could project to be an exterior corner, which is where the Giants played him. I know that a lot of people think he's going to ultimately end up playing the slot, but I actually think he may project better to play on the outside long term. That remains to be seen. Of course, he's still down there with the injury. So much like Azudu, I'm kind of going to give it an incomplete, but much like Azudu, I'm also going to say with Cordalle Flott, I see potential. I see a lot of potential for growth. And a guy that, with this coaching staff, what we've been able to see them do, what they've been able to get out of a lot of the players on this staff, specifically on the defensive side early on, maybe he ends up becoming that number 2 cornerback for the New York Giants next year if they could further develop him. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, Aaron Robinson is also hurt as well. So the Giants have had a lot of injuries at that department. And Moreau's played well. So who knows if Cordalle Flott's going to get an opportunity. Maybe he gets an opportunity in the slot. Who knows? But I definitely, again, see potential with Flott. Still has a lot more room to grow, though. And I think we knew that. It's why he went in the late 3rd round. It's why a lot of people projected him to go in the 4th or 5th round of this year's draft. But I think much like Wan'dale Robinson, he was a player that the Giants felt fit their defensive scheme well, and they liked his potential. And I definitely see it. Very fast, longer arms. And I do think could project to be a very good exterior corner for the New York Giants in the future. Next up, we're going to talk about the gem so far in this draft class. Daniel Bellinger. I mean, my God, what more can you say about this guy? Daniel Bellinger, and I understand it's a weak tight end class, but Daniel Bellinger right now leads all tight ends in yards. He leads all rookie tight ends. He leads all rookie tight ends in yards. He leads all rookie tight ends in catches. And he's tied for the lead with rookie tight ends in touchdowns. He has two receiving and 1 rushing. I forgot who it was, but there's another rookie tight end who has 3 receiving touchdowns. So he's tied for him with the lead in that. So he leads in all 3 categories. And usually with a tight end, at least from a statistical standpoint, they don't typically have huge rookie seasons. They're, you think back to TJ Hockenson, who was like the 6th or 7th overall pick with the Lions. Even he didn't have the most, he didn't have the biggest statistical impact in his rookie year. And Bellinger right now, I mean, he's on pace for what? Like almost 500 yards probably and 8 or 9 touchdowns, like probably even more than that. So that's really, really good for a rookie. And he's made a dramatic impact. And the New York Giants have certainly needed it. I mean, we have no weapons right now at the wide receiver position. And Bellinger's done a great job standing out for us in that department. He's an A+ for me. He is the best value pick thus far, at least, in this year's draft. He's already a fan favorite amongst New York Giants fans, and I only expect him to continue to get better. He's also a very good blocker. Like, he's gotten better and better each week. I've noticed that. I've mentioned the special teams block several times. He was the guy that sprung that big return for Brightwell this past week, where he got it to the 50, which ultimately ended up, I believe, resulting in a touchdown. And a lot of that had to do with the kick return. And Bellinger set him up with that block, and he's gotten better as a blocker on the line of scrimmage as well throughout the year. That was what he was known for. He was known as a sure-handed tight end. He's brought that to the table. I think he had one drop week 1, but outside of that, he hasn't dropped anything, which is nice to see. We became all too familiar with seeing Evan Ingram have a lot of key drops, and he's certainly a better blocker than Ingram. So he's a welcome addition to the New York Giants. Giants were foaming at the mouth to get a tight end like Daniel Bellinger during the draft because we haven't had one in a bit. So love this pick. Joe Shane looks like he really knocked it out of the park with that 4th-round pick. Next up, our other pick in the 4th round, Dane Belton out of Iowa. Much like a lot of the rookies we've talked about, and you expect this from, later round picks in their rookie year, hasn't made a huge impact quite yet. But he was a guy when we drafted him, when I did some research, I really liked his fit in this defense. And I think it's the same thing I've said about several of these other prospects. That's why the New York Giants took him. He was a guy that was incredibly versatile at the next level, probably a guy that Wink and Shane and Dable envisioned as a guy that they could move around, a guy that they could blitz off the edge, a guy they could blitz up the B gap, could drop back in coverage. I think he played like 4 or 5 different positions at college. So a very versatile piece, a guy similar to maybe a player like Julian Love, where he was drafted, and both what he probably projects to be capable of, being like a jack of all trades type player in the secondary, and may project to be a very good player for the Giants. Hard to tell right now because he's not getting out on the field a whole lot, even though this past week he did. He played about 65-70% of the snaps as that continues to grow. And I know we've had some injuries in that secondary, so we'll see if he continues to get those types of snaps. And the Giants have had a lot of multiple DB looks in their secondary, so maybe he will continue to get a lot of looks throughout the year. I know his PFF grade is very underwhelming. People look at that; it's at like 30. But regardless, I definitely see potential in Dane Belton, and I definitely think he could develop into a very good player. But again, much like a lot of the rookies on here, I'll say incomplete, but with potential for this football team. Micah McFadden, same thing. I'm not going to go too much into him. When the Giants drafted him, a lot of people felt like he was a good scheme fit yet again. A linebacker that people felt would be a good blitzer up the middle. Hasn't done a whole lot. He's gotten on the field a bit. Again, this is a pick. Maybe he becomes a depth piece. Maybe he becomes a guy that contributes in special teams. We'll see. But way too early to tell too much on him. DJ Davidson, I will say, out of Arizona State, he suffered an injury. I think he's out for the year. But while he was playing, I actually thought DJ Davidson was making a pretty good impact on the interior for the New York Giants on that defensive line. Looked like he was doing some damage. We'll see when he gets out on the field. But again, he's been hurt. The same can be said for Marcus McKeithen, who was in the 5th round, who was probably drafted more for depth purposes than anything else. But you have to think that the New York Giants like that North Carolina program from an offensive line perspective because they drafted both of their interior offensive linemen between Azudu and McKeithen. So it was probably something about the blocking scheme there that they thought projected well for what Bobby Johnson was looking to do with the New York Giants. But we didn't get to see him a whole lot, right? Because he got hurt before the year started. And then finally, the last pick, which was a fan favorite of the Giants and a guy that really impressed me, at least in training camp when I went 2 or 3 times, in terms of his ability to drop back in coverage, something that I did not expect from the projections coming into the pros, and a guy that they were actually using up at the line of scrimmage a bit as a potential blitzer was Darian Beavers. Unfortunately, much like McKeithen, he got hurt before the year started, and hopefully he comes back and fully recovers from that injury and looks like the same player, right? We all remember Ryan Conley was a rookie. We were all really impressed with that, the linebacker position as well. Suffered that injury and obviously wasn't the same player when he came back. So hopefully Beavers is, because I do think he was a guy that the Giants thought was going to be their starting middle linebacker before the year started, and hopefully he gets that opportunity when he comes back next year, but certainly a guy with potential. But so far, what I see with this rookie class, they're making impacts. I mean, right now, Wan'dale Robinson might be our number 1 wide receiver. And that's as much to do with the fact that we don't have a lot of talent at that position as Wan'dale himself. But I certainly think he's going to get more and more opportunities as he gets more accustomed to playing from within the NFL. I expect that snap count to go up this week, and certainly displayed that he's capable of running good routes, getting open. I mean, at Kentucky, I think he led the SEC in receiving yards last year. I could be wrong on that, but definitely had a high impact. So I think he's going to continue to have a high impact And obviously the two guys in the first round, you knew that before the year started, are going to have a high impact on this year's football team with Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeaux. Outside of that, I mean, yeah, obviously Bellinger, right? I mean, he's probably had the biggest impact of any of these rookies thus far. Belton as well continues to get out on the football field, and that's great. We're getting contributions from rookies on a team that's 5-1. These guys should only continue to grow and improve, but so far, so good for Joe Schoen. As an overall class, I'll probably give it about a B as of now, but I definitely think it has a lot of potential to be one of the better draft classes the New York Giants have had in quite some time, especially if Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeaux reach their ceilings. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.